Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. It's 2 wins out of 2. We've had 2 clean sheets in a row. We're scoring goals. What can go wrong? If you are with us for the first time, you can find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, and we are on Instagram too. And such is the dedication to this show. Everyone, I think, bar me and G, I've got to say, I've had to find a way to make it work in different alternative settings, but they're here. They've made it. It's a top-tier panel as we are in the final 7 days of the transfer window for our listeners and audio, and where Spurs are in a late scramble. Will they find a new centre-half? Will they find a new winger? Will they find that desired 10? It all comes down to these next 7 days. Johan Lang, get off that holiday. Vero Paratici, keep on calling. Daniel Levy, maybe don't go into negotiations. We'll see. On this show, of course, we'll be discussing where we are in that window. Of course, in this last 24, 48 hours, there are suggestions that Tottenham Hotspur, after raiding West Ham for one of their stars, that looks pretty good, you've got to say, in a Spurs shot in Mohamed Kudus, are they going back for another in Lucas Paquetá? We'll be letting you know where we are in relation to that. It's been, along with the other player we won't mention, because we promised in the last show we wouldn't mention him. Again, one of the sagas of the summer is the move on, is the move off. Will Tottenham get a deal over the line for Savinho from Manchester City? We'll be bringing you the latest and up-to-date news on Tottenham's, I say, pursuit, search for the winger. Where was he? How are we doing? We'll find that out and more. And of course, as we've known throughout this window, it's been made very, very clear by Thomas Frank, by fans around the world, Tottenham's pursuit and need for a number 10. We know, of course, no James Maddison. He's out for the majority of the season. Of course, Dejan Kulusevski out until the turn of the year. Tottenham have got a big 7 days to find that number 10. Will it be Nico Paz, a name mentioned? Will it be the name of Akliouche? Or will there be a surprise there that comes into battle in the last 7 days? Do Tottenham dare turn to Khannouss of Leicester? And of course, and more in this show, we'll be discussing some outgoings as well. We've heard suggestions that Yves Bissouma is edging closer to the exit door. Where will he end up? We'll soon find out, you'd imagine. And the big question of all, the one that's been really posing fans, I think, out there, will Bryan Gil ever leave Tottenham? We'll be bringing you the latest if Bryan Gil is going to depart the football club and more during this show, because again, it's coming to that final 7 days. Back alongside me, not often we've had him on after a win. If I can just say before we start, a little bit of admin. Please, if you can, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this out to a wide range Spurs audience. For Georgia King is also back on. George, very busy on your channel. Suddenly, the form's picked up. And here you are. G, how are you? Lovely to see you.
Yeah, form definitely picked up. Very busy. Did a little solo travel to the Etihad yesterday. That was great fun. I enjoyed that little. That's one of the best trips every year. So no, I'm happy to be on. Happy to talk about a win. I know the last year or so has been quite depressing every time I had to come on and talk about Spurs. But no, I think great start to the season. I think it's all about the transfer window at the moment now. We've got to finish off strong, which you could argue we never really do, but hey ho, I think the club needs to stick their finger out there and kind of get moving.
Absolutely. Also back on the show, who joins me for a lot, of course, of transfer updates. We've got a lot bringing you in this next week. We'll be with you every step of the way. Make sure you keep that notification bell on for Last Word on Spurs. Jeremy Brown's back from the Daily Hotspur. Make sure you keep his notification bell on. Jay, how are you? Lovely to see you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ricky. I mean, obviously, we're speaking in slightly better circumstances than what we did. I think was it on Thursday, and obviously the other guys were on as well.
What do you mean in general?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, it was a rather difficult day in the transfer window for Spurs, but I guess we're kind of used to that now. But it was a really good, really great win against Manchester City. It was just great to see a manager that was able to adapt. That we looked defensively solid again. I think that was the main thing. I mean, we were just so well set up. And yes, another win over Manchester City. It's another coach, a Spurs coach, that's gone there. And it's crazy to think that all the different Spurs managers that have gone there with different play styles, and they still can't get the better of us. So, fantastic start to the season.
And also, if you want to know the gauge of the Spurs mood, not that I say it's always the man, well, he's, I think, always the man you want to gauge the Tottenham mood on, just always head over to Billie T's X, because you always get a gauge of where we are in the Spurs universe. Bill, lovely to be back alongside us. Fair to say, massive now 7 days for the football club, given how we've started. God, it could be exciting, right? If we get that back in for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, completely, man. We're a mess off the pitch, but competent on it, right? And I guess that's the way you want to be as a football club. So yeah, buzzing. Hope that we give this fantastic manager some players now. I'm in my childhood bedroom at the moment, and back here is a wardrobe that used to have a life-size sticker of Sol Campbell on it. So every time I see it in the reflection, I get a bit of PTSD. But there you go. That's why I'm in a bit of a weird lighting situation.
And just to show everybody out there, for everyone's sake, Bill did rip that off as soon as he got back in to the childhood bedroom. I promise you, there is not a giant life Sol Campbell staring at him on his left-hand side for listeners and audio that are quite frankly at the moment thinking, should I carry on listening to this? Yes, you bloody should. Look, obviously a lot to discuss during this show. We mentioned that point. We understand, listen, contrary, he may very well be back now, but Johan Langer, there was reports, was on holiday last week. But we know he's got a list of targets for Tottenham at number 10, a winger, a centre-back, which Spurs are going to try and examine over this final week of the window. I think it's very well known out there. Thomas Frank does need experienced heads. Not necessarily maybe say in terms of the age frame, but certainly in terms of experience, in terms of playing Premier League, Champions League, and to give this club the best possible chance of footballing success. We mentioned earlier, we have an understanding of who Tottenham's targets are, but, again, it's been a tremendous start to the season. I think from what we've seen with Thomas Frank in the 3 games, a manager that's been highly adaptable, as we've seen in those first 3. It's a season that Tottenham made it very, very clear. They want a manager to fight in all 4 competitions, meaning if that's the case, we're going to have a 60-game season. And that would mean, obviously, again, progression in Europe, in the Cups. And if we're going to do that, then you cannot let Thomas Frank down. Thomas Frank said on the back of that game, I think we have a strong squad that I believe in. We would like to add to it, but only if we can strengthen the squad. The club is working very, very hard, and I trust them. I will come to you, G, to open the game. You was there at the Etihad. We're going to come on to where we are in the window, but it would be remiss of me, given our start to the season, that I don't ask you about Man City. Back-to-back Premier League wins for the first time since Feb. Back-to-back clean sheets for the first time as well since Feb. Back-to-back Premier League wins since the start of the season for the first time since 2021. That is Thomas Frank's Tottenham. How impressed are you by this, and how much do we need this to continue and give this man this backing? Because if we do, this could be quite an exciting season in store, G.
Yeah, look, thoroughly impressed. I think a lot of Spurs fans as well thought we were going to go into that game pretty much set up the same as we did against PSG. I think a lot of us thought Danzo might come in, set up a back 5, but no, he went insanely brave. It was almost a 2-4-4. Whenever we had the ball, it was mental. Just going man for man the whole game. I was really, really, really impressed with the game plan from Thomas Frank, and I think he got it perfect, to be honest with you. And again, like you guys have alluded to, and like we've said in previous streams and stuff, just the adaptability game from game has just been really, really good so far. But yeah, I think backing him is so important, because we've seen this before as well, kind of under Ange, like well at the beginning when we won those first 10 games, right? The football worked. But then as soon as we started losing some of the players to play his way, it just collapsed. And as much as obviously Frank can be a lot more adaptable and not necessarily have to be gung-ho the whole time, you still just think the moment we lose someone like Khannouss, who's clearly proven to be so important. I know he didn't get a goal contribution yesterday, but his strength was unbelievable. His hold-up play is class as well. The way he links up with the other players is great. So I think if you lose someone like that, if we lose Romero and Van de Ven again, I know we've got Danzo is a pretty good backup now, but we just simply can't get back into a situation where you've got Davis and Gray potentially playing centre back, or if you're missing Richarlison, missing Solanke. I think we can't get in that situation again. Otherwise, I think we'll fall apart. So yeah, back the man. He's clearly proven this early on. He knows what he's doing. He's a very clever manager, and I think we can go far if we back him. But look, we've only got 8 days left now, and we realistically probably only like maximum 2 players in. It's a lot of work to do.
God, gee, keep us optimistic, right? Just the 2 he's going for. Maybe keep us level-headed there. Maybe he's trying to keep us level-headed.
Coming
over to you, Jay. Look, we've seen, of course, this manager already, as I mentioned, 3 different games, 3 different systems and strategies. Again, I know people have had personal favourites of managers over this last kind of 4 or 5 years, but there's already a feeling from some fans, not all fans, that we're kind of getting already the Pochettino vibes back at the club. Somebody that really understood the nature of opposition we're playing. Already we can see a lot of players that have already improved significantly in such a short space amount of time. How impressed were you by, number one, the performance, and again, the individuals that really stood out at the Etihad? Because there were so many players to go through. I mean, Saar was man of the match, but really, there was 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 of them that you could have said they deserve man of the match, Jay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously with the defensive options that we have, we know that Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero should be one of the best central defensive pairings in the Premier League. And I think under this manager, I think they're finally going to get that recognition that they deserve, because they're going to be in a proper structure where they've got that Palhinha in front of them. They've got Jed Spence, not miles up the pitch, so I think that structure is really going to help them. And if you've got them at their best, I think Spurs can go toe-to-toe with most teams in the Premier League. I think we should be really confident in that. I think that Spurs fans don't give those two enough credit. Paquetá Sarr, I mean, he's the one, and I'm really excited to see more of him under the new manager. It's just been a revelation. I mean, we know that he's a talented player. I think that maybe under Ange it just didn't work in terms of his system and the way that he used him, but yeah, Thomas Frank's just got him at his very best. I mean, he is, he's an engine in that midfield. Just amazing that he can kind of do a bit of everything. So yeah, really excited to see more of Paquetá Sarr this season. But as I said, I remember I was at the San Siro for the game where he was in a midfield pairing with Oliver Skip, but then we never saw him again. But 22 years old, and he's just huge potential. So it was really positive performance, and Palhinha as well. He's a guy who's proven me wrong at the moment. Had my doubts over maybe did we need something a bit more creative, but yeah, like he's just when you've got players like Sarr, obviously Bentancur is very good on the ball as well. Hopefully after the fingers crossed, we had that number 10 to the squads. But you can have that steal in midfield. So yeah, there's just so many exciting areas of this team, and I mean for me, Khannouss is the one that I think Spurs have really missed a player like that for quite some time. Obviously, we had it with Sonny, didn't quite see the best of him, but just a player that really gets you off your seat. Because there's some of the runs that he does, the dribbles. Obviously, George mentioned his strength as well, which is a really surprising attribute. But yeah, it's just nice to be listing off all these players and being really positive about the system and everything. So yeah, everyone knows I was a big fan of Ange, but it's just lovely to have this defensive structure for once.
I have to keep checking I'm arriving at the right podcast when I'm talking about systems, tactics, setup, improvement of players. I don't mean it disrespectfully, because again, like 3.5 months ago, we had one of the best moments of all of our footballing lives in Bilbao. So look, I wouldn't disrespect what's happened in the past. The past is the past. The future's the future. Bill, it only feels right that I bring to you one of these quotes, because I think, when a manager's already saying this so early on, this screams of, dangerous when it's Tottenham, and it's a relationship that, again, for us is purely toxic. We could never walk away from Tottenham. It's one of those relationships where as much as they hurt us, we will always come back for more. Thomas Frank said on the back of that victory against Man City, he loved his former club Brentford, but he's already falling in love with Tottenham. What do you make of that? Just 3 games into his competitive reign. Is that dangerous, saying that 3 games in that he loves this club already?
It's dangerous territory, mate. I'm looking at my Ange tattoo on one leg and thinking I better get the other leg ready for a Thomas Frank one. I'm there already, mate. Honestly, I saw him. What was it when he went over to the away end yesterday, clapping? Reminded me a few years ago, mate. When remember the video? I think we won 3-1 at the Etihad. Pochettino hugging every player that went off. I'm getting strong Pochettino vibes from this guy. I love the way that he talks. I think he could not have had a more impressive start on the pitch than he's had. In terms of different systems, different tactics, different, and I think that performance yesterday was incredible from the way that we controlled the game. Second half, I was expecting to City come out and dominate us, but did not at all. If anything, it was the opposite. I'm just really, really, if you look at some other things that he's done as well, he's got Romero up on side, made him captain. It's just such an impressive start. And I really hope, as someone tweeted yesterday, my good friend Flav, the players have done their job. The manager's done their job. Now it's time for the chairman to do his job and back this man. Because if you couldn't have shown any more, mate. What a brilliant start to his career.
Agree. I think people also forget, we're not battling with a squad that's also fully fit. I mentioned at the start of the show, we're without James Maddison. He's got an ACL. Destiny Doggy at the moment, still not fit. Dominic Solanke just come back. But again, you can see they're carefully monitoring in terms of when to start. Dejan Kulusevski, I mentioned, Decky obviously is out now to the turn of the year. Who knows when Decky is going to be back to what we describe as being match fit, because we know, given the injury that he's had, it's going to take a while for him to get back. Manos Solomon, Brian Hill, look, these guys I think we know are kind of on the fringes. You would imagine they're both going to leave the club before the end of the window, although with Tottenham, you never quite know. And obviously, Coach Zakai, we're yet to even see make a first team appearance. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think it does bode a lot of positivity. And I think just on that point you mentioned there, Bill, about the impact Frank has made, I think Ali Gold said, if you haven't already heard it, Ali in his most recent piece and his talking points and also on his respective channels said, there's a real great vibe around the club. Yes, it's the honeymoon period, but already, I think it's, again, Bill, to come back to you on this point, already behind the scenes there seems to be that great communication. Frank has already been seen as this, as he shows himself to be a really decent human being. And that's, again, not meaning Ange wasn't a great human being, just to be very, very clear before people assume that. What I'm saying with Frank is that, there's such a level of detail, Bill, isn't there, in terms of what you can see is actually during the games now, the players are literally being coached during the game, from the sideline being coached. And if it's not them, it's, of course, Matty Wells. And if it's not Matty Wells, it's Justin Cochrane. And if it's not them, it's Polina when he comes off the sub. I mean, it's remarkable at the moment, isn't it, to see that level of detail being given to the players and them actually obviously adhering to it and following it, Bill.
It is brilliant, mate. And I even heard that he's hired someone to be in terms of like team culture and stuff. It's really positive vibes, mate. And I'm just, this is the kind of thing you want as a football fan, isn't it? You want to be excited about your team. You want to be excited at the beginning of the season. You want to be off to a rocky start and, a point from 2 games or something like that and thinking, God, we're a long way off already. What a brilliant start we've made. And I just think, everything that comes about him just radiates sort of just sort of competence, to be honest, mate. He has that sort of really competent, intelligent, tactical and smart feeling about him. He's not, and people will continue to compare to Ange just because Ange is our last manager. Ange was an incredible speaker. Thomas Frank is not a bad speaker by any means, but he's just a very different kind of vibe. And I'm fully all in, mate. I really am. I just really, really hope that he gets the players that he deserves because, we've gone toe-to-toe with 2 of the best sides in world football. You could argue that we've dominated both games. So if that's not a good start, then I don't know what is.
Absolutely, it has been a great start, and already I think it is fascinating. When already from what are we now? 3 competitive games in, coming back around to you get an iconic quote of this one. 3 games in, I don't want any players that don't want to come to this club and play for this fantastic badge. I mean, we're 3 games in here. We're not 30 games in. We're not 300 games in. We're 3 games in, and already the manager just seems to get already what fans feel. He's very much in touch with fans, isn't he, manager, already that we're seeing, from the very early period. I think, again, you've seen that being at the Etihad and being at home for those that missed it. At the end, I know at the home games I was there, he went to each corner of the stadium, applauded the supporters. I mean, it's great to feel that connection with somebody at such early doors. Because, again, for him, he must have thought to himself, I'm coming on the back of a manager, winning a European trophy, breaking a 40-year duck, obviously, in Europe, 17-year trophy drought. But he's come in and, to have that relationship already with the fans from such an early period, so crucial, to the foundations already and hopefully more to come.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think he, as well, when he backed up what Ange did in the sense of the fact that it was a massive achievement for the club. I think he understood what it kind of meant to be a Tottenham manager when he first came in, talking about how he understands that the fans want to see good attacking football, but nonetheless, he also realizes that we had one of the worst defenses in the league last year and made sure that that was a key factor in what he had to change when he first came in. And look, I think he's winning all of us. Well, or if not, has won all of us over so early on already. And I think he's just, like, as Bill was saying there, just really intelligent guy, just understands and just loves football completely. And you can see that coming across in the fact that the tactics are changing mid-game as well. And I like it. I like what he does in interviews after. It's not necessarily just generic answers that he's giving. A lot of the times he's actually breaking down what's happening in games, which I really like that insight from him as well. You can clearly see just how passionate he is just about football. And it's so nice to have someone like that at the club for sure. And again, just as Bill said, like the way he communicates with clearly the players, clearly with coaches, but as well as the fans. He's a great guy to get behind, and we just need to seriously give him the backing, because as much as I think it's starting off amazing now, I do worry that maybe there's going to be an over-reliance on Khannouss on the right-hand side, because we don't have a version of that on the left. Whereas obviously someone like Savinho, who we've clearly been linked with so much, whether it actually gets over the line or not, that just gives us the flexibility to use those tactics and the way we play. But on the left-hand side as well, become even more unpredictable than we have been so far. And I just worry if we don't get someone like that over the line, eventually maybe teams can just start sussing the fact that the main driving force is that right-hand side from us. And if you actually look over the last 2 games, I think it's on SofaScore, you can see it, or FootMob. It's like almost all of the players come on that right-hand side. any time it's going to happen on the left, it's just been a Johnson tap in from a cross from the right. So I think we need those options on the left as well. Have to back him.
Yeah, it's funny with Johnson, isn't it? Because I mean, I was saying this yesterday. What's he doing? And then he just scores goals. I mean, it's the most bizarre situation where you have a player that can, not do very much in a game, but then in one moment, I will give him credit. I thought he actually did do very well yesterday in terms of aspects of the game. But, for a player like him that pops up, and people don't realise that, well, maybe some do and some don't, he's been a big source of some big, big goals for Tottenham. Of course, obviously the cup final one, whether you're kind enough to give it to him. But again, the times away at City, away at United, he's been a real big goal scorer for Tottenham. So it is very, very exciting. And I know, look, we were here under Ange back in 2023 when we made that absolutely storming start to his reign. And I do remember at the time, I think all of us saying that would have been on the respective panel at the time, this is great, but at the same time, he does need backing. And, we are here again. We've made a great start, 6 points out of a possible 6. I can't forget the point with Ange Postecoglou. He was handed one senior player in Dominic Solanke, and really in general, some decent teenagers to some degree, but no one that really was going to massively be able to push the club on. So here we are again. We've made a couple of astute signings in terms of João Palhinha on loan, but the only permanent one we've made, of course, is Mohamed Kudus. And like I say, we all know that we do need more. On the fact of needing more, we are hearing breaking news coming through to Zero Last Word on Spurs. This is why we do love doing these shows, because anything can quite break at any time. This is in relation to who was a Tottenham target. A couple of different stories to bring to you from Fabrizio Romano, who has said on Pierre Hincapié, who we understand has been a Tottenham target. Hincapié has decided to leave Bayer Leverkusen if a suitable offer arrives. The decision has been made and he has a 60 million release clause. That's the first bit of news to bring to you here. We are also having breaking news from Fabrizio Romano that Tottenham Hotspur have had a 70 million euro bid turned down, outright rejected for Nico Paz. So that news coming through to us here. Tottenham had a bid worth 70 million, a package turned down for Nico Paz. Paz wants to stay at Como with a view on Real Madrid, and Madrid were going to match any proposal in any case. So if we're going to go by that, that would suggest that move is completely dead. So, but you do wonder again on that point, why would Spurs bid for a player if they haven't had any real encouragement? We'll go there next. So we're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. We have got nearly over already 12,500 of you that are watching this show live. Thank you ever so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by 3 of the Twitterati, or the Xerati, I think you call it now. George Achille is on here. Please make sure you're giving him a like and follow. Billie T, make sure you're keeping up to date with Bill's latest, little bites that keep you going, I think. If ever you need a moment where you think, God, what's the world thinking? Go to Billie T's X. That'll tell you where Spurs world is at. And Jamie Brown from the Daily Hotspur. Jamie hope it's going to be very, very busy in this next week, working to bring us all the latest Tottenham news, of course. Daily_Hotspur, Jamie Brown, his personal account. And like I say, guys, here, we're going to be keeping you inundated with the transfer window between now and the end of it. So please give this show a like and a subscribe. Make sure you do hit the notification bell so you know each time we are going to go live during this transfer window. And it comes back to that point. We know there's been lofty ambitions from Daniel Levy and Enoch about the fact Tottenham, they want to win the Premier League. They want to win the Champions League. Before we do, like I say, continue with the transfer window, Bill, it only feels like I come to you because we know at Change for Spurs, there's been a real, big emphasis on listening to the fans. We'll bring in a statement that you've obviously came to a decision on. I don't know if you want to read this out for us and give us the latest update from Change for Spurs in regards to what is coming next from the fan group's perspective.
Yeah, so obviously we tried to speak on behalf of fans. This statement was written by Change for Tottenham. So obviously in the last few weeks, it's a bit of a unique situation, isn't it? Because fans are really happy with what's going on the pitch. Fans are rightly angry with what's going on off it. I think the Eze humiliation got to a lot of fans, myself included. And then, we're here a few days later. We still haven't signed the number 10. We still haven't signed the left winger. So at Change for Tottenham, we said, Change for Tottenham, the grassroots fans movement is writing to you following yet another disastrous transfer window. We entered the summer with an urgent need to strengthen, I won't read it all, across the pitch to compete on all fronts and build on last season's trophy success. Yet once again, the board has failed to deliver these challenges. This summer has been a constant stream of near misses and disappointments. And I'll just finish with the last sentence. So Tottenham Hotspur is more than a business. It's the pride of its community and the passion of millions worldwide. It's time the board started acting like it. And I think this weekend, while we're all buzzing, has just gone to prove, even more so in my opinion, that this manager needs to be backed with significant transfers. If he does, I think we could be on to something really special. And I think the fact that we're going into the last week of the window of 2 significant transfers still yet to be made, hopefully it will be rectified. So keep an eye on change with Tottenham. We are going to do an announcement tomorrow, but there's lots of fans out there frustrated. It's really salvageable window as well. We can make 2 signings that make a big difference. And at the end of the day, that is all that we want. We all want the same thing. We just want this manager to be back, because my God, does he deserve it.
Bill, thank you so much. Like I say, let's start with that breaking news that we have had through from Fabrizio Romano in this last 5 minutes to the show for our listeners that are on audio. So just again, if you've missed it at all, that breaking news that's come through to us here from Fabrizio directly is that Tottenham Hotspur have had a bid outright rejected for Nico Paz, a player that Spurs have been following closely during this window. The bid Tottenham were understood to have put to Como was worth in the region of 70 million euros. Paz, we understand, according to Fabrizio, wants to stay at Como with a view on Real Madrid's future. And it's understood Madrid were going to match any proposal in any case. Jay, if I can open with you on Nico Paz, that talented player. We'll come on to what he would bring to Tottenham in a second, but from someone that, again, has been around the window, I've known you for about 10 years, bless you, anyway, this last decade. Surely Tottenham would not be entering any bid for the player without any sense of encouragement he wants to join. So where do you read between the lines on this fact they put a bid in, it's rejected? Do you think that's the end of it, or will Tottenham come back for more? What's your gauge for you?
Well, firstly, I do hope that it's not true that we're putting this bid, because it just feels like, we knew for so long that this was going to be the case. I've from what I've been from told at work and everything, this was always going to be the case. He wanted to go back to Real Madrid. They had the option to buy him. Real Madrid wanted to bring him back eventually. So I don't understand why we'd be wasting our time on him. I do maybe question whether that is actually legitimate, that we've actually put that bid in, just because, as you said, they'd only put the bid in if they knew that he'd shown an inclination of joining. That's just the way that transfers work. That's the way negotiating work. You don't offer for a player that doesn't want to join. That's the first thing you find out, unless you're, Nottingham Forest. But it's just bizarre situation. I really hope that this isn't true, because it just feels like we'd have wasted so much time on a deal that we know was never going to happen. I personally, I think someone else just said it in the comments. For me, the bid doesn't make any sense. Obviously Fabrizio is obviously a fantastic journalist, but there's just so many question marks why we'd actually bid for a player that doesn't want to come for us. It just doesn't make any sense. We knew this was the case. And if it is, it's very worrying that we've been wasting our time on him.
Well, we have wasted, what, the region of about 4 weeks when you went up the Gibbs White and the SA's pursuit.
True. There is that. So we do seem to be wasting our time. Yeah. So maybe.
Bill will come to you. I know. You've been raving about him. If you don't mind me saying, behind the scenes, we see the messages. We see the messages. You give me your gauge on that for you, Bill. The fact that bid's gone in, been rejected. Like Jamie says there, it'd be utterly bizarre if Tottenham weren't being given any encouragement from Paz's camp, Paz's representative, Paz's entourage to make the bid. So, but the fact that bid has gone in, been outright rejected, the fact that Real Madrid, potentially see the players being, part of their future, we have to wait and see. And Madrid were going to match any proposal in any case. How do you read that view at the moment in relation to this bid that's gone in?
I'm a little bit confused by this transfer, the whole Real Madridness of it all, because I'm not 100%. Maybe Jamie can help me a little bit, but I know that they've already turned down the chance to sign him this summer for 8 million, I believe. They got another. Is that right, Jamie?
Yeah, I think so. They have got an option to buy him for that £8 million.
It's expired this season, isn't it? But now they get another one next year. They get another next year.
9 million next year.
So I'm confused by the fact that they could match any bid that but they've already turned down the chance to sign him for significantly less. So that's a little bit confusing. And I guess if we did bid, they'd only have to bid half because they got a 50% fee. So the whole situation is a bit strange. But to me, it's just another situation where why are we wasting our time on this? If a player who's obviously got his heart set on Real Madrid, you can't compete with Real Madrid. It doesn't matter who you are. If a player wants to go to Real Madrid, you're not budging them, to be honest. And this guy is essentially on a loan from Real Madrid because they have 7 million this year, 8 million next year, or whatever it is, euros. They could buy him at the drop of a hat next summer. So in his mind, he'll be on loan at Real Madrid. He will be thinking of Real Madrid. So my biggest concern is we've wasted 2-3 weeks on Morgan Gibbs-White, 2 weeks on Eze. And again, we're going after another target that doesn't particularly want to come, and it's a really difficult deal to get over the line. Yeah, he's a brilliant player. Watch him today. He made an amazing assist, got an amazing free kick. But why are we wasting our time on these bids when, we have to do a bit of due diligence here, surely, and we should be, Frank said it himself, we need to sign players that want to come to Tottenham and that we can sign because time is running out.
Yeah, I mean, G, do you understand that bid being launched, being rejected? Why would Spurs, as I've mentioned, really don't sound redundant here, but why would they be putting a bid in for a player if they've had no encouragement from his camp? He wants to join. That makes no sense, especially when we've got, again, less than a week left of the window here for our listeners on Audio G.
To be honest, the only thing I could think of is that this is just some sort of PR spin to make it look like they're looking busy, because it's no coincidence that it's the same fee that was Morgan Gibbs-White. It's pretty much the same fee that it was for Eze as well. It's not like the money's changed. So I don't know if it's just a case of Spurs want to make it look like that. Oh, we're in for this top class rated player. We tried. We nearly got him for £60 million, but unfortunately he wanted to go Real Madrid, and then we're just left with whatever's left afterwards. I really don't know. And I've said to you before how many times I love this player. He'd be my number one pick if we could get it done, but it's just so evident. And I think he had I think he spoke to the Italian media after the game today, saying that he's just got his heart set on Real Madrid, and it's just got no
just a little bit confusing that they would reject 70 million, right? When they have to accept 9 million next summer. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and because then you'd think that they would want the 35 instead of it. But then again, if it is true with what Fabrizio saying that Real Madrid were willing to match anyway, because I do think they've got a what's it called, like a right to first refusal, or they can match any bid someone comes in. So I think, and like you say, it would be basically like paying half, really. So I just don't think, as much as I would have loved it, I just don't know how this move could have even played off. And then again, also, if you really wanted him, don't wait until the last week. There might have been a chance to put in a 60 million or 70 million euro bid. 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. Yeah. And then you can maybe, wear him down a little bit, try and get him in after that. But it makes no sense to me. And it does feel like a little bit of a panic move of, okay, he's next on the list. Let's just try. Oh no, they rejected. All right. Who's next on the list? That is just the only way it seems like to me.
I mean, we can't do PR stunts with a week to go. It just, it just screams back to what Bill just said about his own statement from Change for Spurs. Yeah, I mean, also, Jay, just on the optics, I know this has been a deal you've been looking at, or certainly been researching about the Pads one. I think it's important to say, have they got a buyback clause for not just the 1 year? This goes ahead next couple of years. Is that right? From my understanding,
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
It's 9 million euros.
I think it goes up $1 million every year, doesn't it?
And then it's 10 million 2027. So they've got it for the next 3 years.
Right. Okay. Look, we probably on that
they rejected it this summer, which doesn't make sense because now all of a sudden they want him. So it's a strange one, isn't it? It's a weird. I think we should just walk away from it.
They also signed, I can't remember who, they signed another youngster. And
another youngster, they're playing the same position, don't they?
Yeah, he just started today for Real Madrid, and I don't quite get how he would get into the team.
The reason why I've got to make you laugh with Tottenham is as a football club. This is how nuts we are. We get ourselves involved in, a situation with the owner of Forest. There's clearly, no disrespect, cuckoo to some degree from what we've seen. We then get ourselves embroiled in the Eze saga, which we know really from the start he wanted Arsenal. And again, we hear that news on 11th hour. He was chasing Arsenal up to get the deal done for him to go there. And now we've got the situation around Nico Paz. Can we not just have any normal transfer, please? That could just be conducted between two football clubs. Why are we getting embroiled in all these sagas? It is, again, so frustrating when you consider, as I said earlier, the optics of it. We wasted, 2.5 weeks on Gibbs-White, further week or more on Eze, and now here we are with Nico Paz. Who knows what's going on? Because, we do need to get deals going. And before we do look at the other alternative number 10s, let's just reflect quickly on that news we are hearing. I think it's from over at Florian Pettenberg, who is saying that rumoured target Pierre Hincapié has decided... Mate. I know Billy's mate, Billy's best mate. Billy's got a great relationship with... Maybe Billy's will be the secret super agent.
I couldn't see the news, mate, because I'm blocked there. I don't know what you're talking about.
Good job on us trying to keep relationships on here, isn't it? Bloody hell. So if the right offer arrives for the Ecuadorian, he will be sold this summer or this window with 7 days to go. He does have a release clause of 60 million euros. George, we know the club have been looking for a left-sided centre-half. From the gauge of what we heard, obviously we had the brilliant Paul O'Keefe on just a week or so ago. He was Tottenham's preferred choice of that role. Will we, George, bearing in mind at the moment, I think for a lot of us out there, number 10 is the priority. And many fans want a winger. Should we be splashing 70 or 60 million on a release clause of the centre half? Do we need him at 60 million?
Well, first of all, can we and will we is very, very different.
Stupid question, really. I'm asking it. What stupid question?
Can, absolutely. We're not broke. Will, definitely not. No, I think, listen, this is a guy that I think for the last, what is it, like 3-4 years, since like the World Cup, heavily linked with brilliant talent. I think he's just proven year on year that he's a quality player, and I think would be a perfect player to have, whether that's in rotation with Van de Ven, maybe alongside if we go back three sometimes. What I like about him, though, is even though he's sort of a left centre-back / left back, he sort of has the aggressive nature of someone like Romero or Danzo, whereas obviously Van de Ven's a little bit more like the sweeper, so to speak. It cleans everything up. So I really like the profile of the player. I think he'll be brilliant for us. It is a lot of money when you're considering the fact that, like you say, we do need to sign someone like Savinho, who's going to cost you north of 70 million probably. If we're going to get a number 10, look, unless we save money and go for Khannouss, who I think, what was the rumoured fee for Crystal Palace, like 32 million? That's obviously a lot cheaper than some of the other players. Maybe that's a case of you're sort of saving some money on the 10, so move that to Hincapié as well. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think those three sort of signings, a left wing, a 10, and Hincapié at centre back, would be absolutely phenomenal. I just don't, and I have just no expectation of Spurs to do that with basically a week to go.
I mean, given the optics so far, we've entered the race for Gibbs White. That's fallen through. We went for Eze. That's fallen through. We're in the news that Paz looks like that has now been outright rejected. The thought of getting Pierre Hincapié at 60 million on a release clause, Bill, you're gonna shoot me down in flames here and tell me this is a no-go?
No, mate. I think this would be an absolutely brilliant signing. I think at the moment we're going sort of bar for bar with Newcastle, aren't we? So you can get rejected the most, but I think this one could be done. I think it'd be an incredible window, like if we an incredible signing. Sorry, like if you look at the kind of signing you think we regularly tend to make in that kind of situation, it would be like a long lay on loan or something like that. This is such a massive step up from that kind of signing. It'd be super exciting, but I can imagine now we're already looking at that price tag and got our eyes watering, haven't we? So I'll be very surprised if it comes off, put it that way. But if it does, then my God, it's such an unlike Tottenham thing to do, isn't it? Go and put 60 million on what is essentially a squad player, because him and Van de Ven would be vying for the first starting position. It'd be very hard to knock Van de Ven out of your starting 11. So it'd be very unlike Tottenham. But please prove me wrong, Tottenham, please.
Yeah.
What scares me is that it is a release clause, and with the amount of players Bayer Leverkusen have lost this year,
another release clause.
They're not accepting less than it. So this is scary.
Is this one public? And can I just confirm? Me and you can both say this. Just confirm for me that he's not Greek, the owner. We could both say that he's not a Greek owner. It's a release clause.
I think we're safe.
It's like that TikTok with that old woman on TikTok, isn't it? Not another one, please.
Not another one.
Jay, your gut feeling on this in relation to Pierre and Hincapié? What do you think? I think bless you, you've been kind of on Daily Hotspur. This has been probably one of the most reposted or sourced ones for how many years, Jay? Has this been going around about Hincapié?
I have been pushing this one for a while. He is a very good player. I mean, obviously everyone does know about him, but I think the guy said he's very much, in terms of a defender, he's a lot like Christian Romero. So yeah, I mean, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, and obviously he splits opinion. It's a lot of money on a squad player, and I just can't see Spurs paying that sort of money for a player. But look, would he be
a squad player? Do you think if we were? I suppose it depends how often we would operate in a back five, right? If we operate in a back five quite often, maybe he wouldn't be a squad player. No, or what do you reckon?
No, I think, to be honest, I think that's right. I mean, that's the mentality of all the top clubs. Manchester City are getting rid of a player like Savinho because they've got 3 or 4 other top left wing options. I still think Savinho is an amazing player, and we'll come on to him later. But that's what the top teams have. We're going to go into Europe next year, and we could have been in a situation last year where we could have lost Van de Ven, but we have Hincapié coming into the team. So this is what the top teams do, and we look at Solanke and Richarlison. There's always about who's going to be the number 9 for Thomas Frank. Well, just enjoy them both. They're going to rotate in and out the team. We're going to need them both.
Here we are a week to go. We can't get one of the line. If they bring some in, let's bloody enjoy them. We're not going to sit here and surely be debating them.
I think he's a squad player in the same way that like Kuzanov is for Man City, right? Like he's not a second string. He's like, it's just you have a big squad of quality players. That's what we want,
exactly.
Right? I think with the amount of games there are as well, you really, really, really need to have quality. I don't think that. I think this notion of a starting 11 just doesn't exist anymore. I think you just have to realize, especially with how much Frank rotates and changes. I mean, the fact that last week against Burnley, he played Gray and Bergvall midfield just goes to show that you really do need high quality rotation options. And it's more of a first team squad than a first 11 anymore nowadays.
Agree. Look, it's fast moving. We're going to fit in another break for our listeners that are on audio. And we have got nearly over 20,000 of you that are watching this show live. I've got to say, guys, incredible numbers for Last Word on Spurs. I think over the last month, we estimated, I think we've nearly had over 1 million views on our YouTube channel, which is simply unbelievable. So, again, thank you so much for your incredible support for the show. And I have to say, you know, we are blessed and lucky. I'm always biased to say this. We're blessed and lucky to be joined by the great guests of, you know, the Spurs community. They give up so much of their time to come onto this show. And, you know, again, for those that go home and away each week, like George does, for example, you know, it's great to be able to get a feeling of how fans feel. So I want to say thank you so much for giving such popularity to the show and making it part of your daily ritual, part of your lives. Because, again, I think we all love talking Tottenham. Where things are positive on the pitch, we'd love them to reflect where we are off the pitch. I'm joined by the brilliant George Akliouche. I'm joined by the brilliant Billie T and the superb Jamie Brown at the Daily Hotspur. Please make sure you go and give these guys a like and subscribe on their relevant platforms. For those asking, we are going to be hopefully bringing you some form of a transfer deadline day special where we'd love to bring all the cast on at some point. It could be a megathon of around 12 hours. So we'll see what we are going to try and do. We know the cast. I can tell you Jason McGovern, and Jamie knows as well, very much so, Jason cannot wait to close the window with you. I promise you, if we can, and we will, Jason McGovern will close that window with you personally. And we're hoping, he's messaging me right now, I'm sure I won't mind me saying it, we've got to get a bit of Anthony Costa in, haven't we, on deadline day? It's never the same of a transfer window if we don't bring Anthony Costa onto Last Word on Spurs and get his take on it. I think it's the most happy I've seen Ant for about 25 years. So and that goes beyond us starting on here. So listen, thank you so much for your support. Keep liking, keep subscribing. And listen, on the case of number 10s, we've heard that news. Tottenham have had that bid rejected for Nico Paz. It does mean that we are going to have to pivot to a potentially alternative number 10s. And this may upset some West Ham fans, but can I be honest with you? I don't really care. God, what could this do?
I think they've got enough to worry about at the moment. Rather than that. That's at least a bit worried right now.
Worry about staying up at the moment. Don't worry about your players keeping them. We'll help you out. We'll help you out. Don't worry. We'll give you some money in the coffers if we can find it. And it's not a release clause and it's not a Greek owner. God help them. Right. We understand Spurs are now showing genuine interest, we're hearing, in this last 24, 48 hours in Lucas Paquetá, which obviously for Tottenham would mean if they were to bring Paquetá into the club, it would be the second highest, profile player to leave West Ham. And when you put that into perspective, you know, we haven't done a business transaction with West Ham, I think, before Khannouss for around over a decade. So if we are to pull off Lucas Paquetá in a Tottenham shirt, this would be quite remarkable. We understand Spurs do hold a significant interest. A bid may be potentially imminent. We will have to wait to see on that. If I can come round to you, Jay, on this news, because I think this is a player that we've spoke about off air, you personally, I think would be a really great fit for that number 10, given the fact no Maddison, no Kulusevski, obviously knows the way Khannouss plays. They've linked up in the past as well at West Ham. How much would this be so exciting? How much would this be so much fun as well to take him away from West Ham, given their situation at the moment?
I mean, we know he's a very talented player. We saw that on Friday, didn't we, with that goal? I mean, he's obviously been a little bit underwhelming for them over the last 2 years, but we know that Khannouss was in the same position. Look, I mean, top clubs, again, it's the case of we've always been brainwashed almost into thinking that we need to be signing 22, 23-year-olds. But, you know, if we can get a player when he's at his best, I think that we should go for it. He's a player that should have been playing for Manchester City. Obviously, you know, we know, obviously, that all the on-field stuff that went on with him that denied him that move. But he is a very talented player and he's a very exciting player as well. And I think he's someone that could fill that number 10 role nicely for Spurs because he is a well-rounded midfielder. I say he's an exciting player in terms of the flair, but he can be he's a box-to-box as well. So, you know, we've seen with the way that Thomas Frank sets up his midfield, he's obviously been playing Sarr in that role. So I think this would be a really good fit. I mean, it's tricky to see West Ham dealing with us, but they need money as well. And so I don't think it's a complete write-off that they would deal with us again. I know they are potentially looking to offload him this window. I think it's going to be tricky that they will let it go to Spurs, because I think there will be plenty of interest in him. I think he has got interest from Saudi as well.
And Villa, I think Villa also have shown interest, but they've also got their own PSL problems as well, Villa.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it would be a really exciting signing, and it would be similar way to Eze in terms of that Premier League experience and, being at his peak. Yeah, sorry to mention it, but I think King Hoddle was saying it in the chat there, an 8-10 hybrid, so could be the perfect number 10 for Thomas Frank. But I think that would be a good option for us.
Yeah, I mean, again, this particular move coming around to you, Bill. We know the optics of how much this would really rub salt into the wounds of West Ham. So fans would just say, "We'll go and do it anyway." Then, if you can go and take down one of their players and have a chance of relegating him in the process, that would be fantastic. I mean, he has endured quite a difficult time. Of course, he did face a betting allegation, which subsequently he was cleared of. We do understand, though, he is open to leaving the club for Champions League football, and at the same time, I think West Ham's position is they may be open to his sale because they need to generate money to put it back into the squad. But you'd argue, why would they want to sell one of their, if not best players, to Tottenham or to a rival, where at the moment they should be looking to strengthen the squad given their poor start to the season, battered really in these opening couple of games, considering 3 against Sunderland, 5 against Chelsea, Potter already under massive pressure on game week 2. On that basis alone, the fans already so frustrated and unhappy. Could you really see them selling Paquetá to Tottenham, Bill? We'll get you to unmute if you can for us.
No, I couldn't, mate. Just for the reason that you mentioned there, I just think they're on a really dangerous path at the moment of 2 heavy defeats in their first 2 games. We know what West Ham fans are like. We know they can be volatile, play around on the pitch against Chelsea. I think the optics of it would be too bad at this point for them to even consider it. I think the interesting thing about it is maybe the contract situation. I think he's got, a year left or 2 years left, which is why they might be trying to get rid of him this summer. I think, obviously, they lost the chance to sell him to Man City last summer because of the betting thing. So the contract thing could make it slightly more likely, but I think PR-wise, with everything that's going on there at the moment, it'd be a very tough deal to do. I think I'd be all for it because, similarity to Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White. It's kind of that a little bit of a known name as well, a little bit of star power. Linking up with hopefully Savinho, Richarlison, get a bit of Brazil thing going on. Really, it would be a really exciting transfer, but I just can't see West Ham doing it after the PR of 2 heavy losses in their first 2 games of the season.
Yeah, I think we can all understand that. I mean, it does feel that this would probably be the most unlikely one, out of the ones that we've been linked with, just given the nature of who we're operating with, who is involved. And I think it's not the first time Tottenham have taken advantage, or what we've seen really, of West Ham's financial troubles. I think you even go back to the Jermaine Defoe transfers at the time, the Freddie Khannouss ones as well. You go back, that Tottenham have always seemed to target West Ham in their desperate need for financially getting, a place where they've got that freedom around it. Again, the fact of the matter is the player does want Champions League football. We can offer that. We've got a player, obviously, that he knows very well in Mohamed Kudus. They linked up ever so well when they were together at West Ham. Your optics on this, G, for you? I mean, look, we've spoke a lot about players that haven't come off so far this summer. Is he one that you see as a realistic option, given the days to go in the window and how much I think we all agree we need a number 10? Profile-wise, I think he suits absolutely brilliantly. But my worry would be if we do put another 4 or 5 days into this and don't get it done, then where does that leave us in terms of then the very last few days of getting a decent number 10 in? Would that be a worry for you?
It's a bit of a worry, yeah. But to be honest with you, there are little things about the move that could make it happen. I mean, as soon as he got cleared of the betting situation, all the reports coming out of West Ham was that they were looking to offload him and that he wanted a fresh start. Clearly, no one's been in for him yet so far. West Ham supposedly are in for Yves Bissouma, who we're looking to offload as well. If that could happen involved in the deal, who knows? Obviously, I know the optics around getting rid of two of their best players to Spurs in one window would be a bit disastrous. But to be honest with you, with the way West Ham's run as a club and what their owners are doing, I don't think they've got West Ham's fans' best interests at heart. To be honest with you, I think they're desperate for cash. I know they're desperately after a centre mid because they can't really carry on with a Ward-Prowse sort of Souček midfield. Otherwise, they're going to have an awful season. So if the player's looking for a new challenge and needs to go, and we stump up enough money, I think there's a very, very small chance it could happen. Like you say, it would be a great fit. To be honest with you, I just want to see Samba Spurs. I want to see Paquetá, I want to see Savinho, I want to see Richarlison with their best mate Khannouss alongside as well. That front four would be absolutely tasty. So yeah, I mean, I would love for this to happen. I think since the whole like Paz is off, Eze's off, Paquetá would be my personal number one. Just because I think his profile is just so similar to Gibbs White, and in fact, I think he's actually stronger as well at winning the ball back than Gibbs White is. I think Gibbs White's just a bit better carrying the ball than Paquetá is, but either way, he's the exact type of player we need. So, look, I would love for us to try and go for him, but like you say, when you've got 9 days left in his West Ham or 8 days left in his West Ham, it's just it makes it so difficult. And if we're doing difficult deals, are we ever going to get anyone in? I don't know.
I mean, look, I've said to you, I mean, Jay, ready to come around to you. You know, we do pick them in terms of clubs to deal with and negotiate with. I mean, when you think of Bill's, for listeners on audio, Bill is covering his face thinking, what? Oh, damn, here we go again. Is that me, innit? Oh, shit, here we go again. You know, to go into negotiations, Jay, with West Ham for Paquetá, given what we've gone through so far this summer with the other respective transfers, we'd have to be so confident we're going to get this done because time is up against us here, up against the clock. You know, less than 7 days left for listeners on audio. We'd have to be so sure on every level it's going to get done because if it doesn't get done, I think Billy might not do a day protesting, he might do a week protesting.
So I think I think with Paquetá, I think he will be an option that will come onto the table like later in the window. I think it'll be a case of where West Ham are really keen to get him out. I don't think that Spurs at this stage are like strongly interested in him. I think there was like a time when West Ham were considering offloading him. We're looking at their options and there weren't too many takers. I think it's going to be a case of where Paquetá will be last couple of days. I think that's when the deal will get done, and and that's when clubs get desperate. And I said if they have that, and obviously people screaming at it later in the window. It's later in the window, but I mean in the final. It's going to be a deadline day.
Final hours.
Yeah, I think I do sense it will be that kind of deal at the moment.
Do you mean then, Jay, we could get a Jason McGovern bomber of him actually reporting that we could get a Jason McGovern bomber?
Yeah, and Jason will be reporting on it, and I will love watching that. But as I said, I don't know at this stage. I don't think he's particularly high on our list. Okay. I think he'll be someone if we were to really mess things up. So I'm sure we'll see him at some point in this transfer.
What have we done so far then?
Well, that's what I mean.
In terms of messing things up, no Eze, obviously it's no Morgan Gibbs White. Can we mess up the number 10 search anymore? I'm sure we'll give it a go. Bill, look, you're close to fan groups. I mean, West Ham fans, they're probably, if not the most unhappiest about their start to a season so far. They've conceded, 8 goals at the moment. Graham Potter thinks a lot of them, he's not the right man for the job. They've already sold, if not their best, although they denied it, West Ham fans denying they have not sold their best player in Khannouss. I think we probably argue and say his work rate's been one of his best attributes so far at Spurs. They're arguing it was one of his worst. We should be getting the best out of him. What would that cause over there? It would be full-scale writing, wouldn't it, if they were to let...
The only way we can make it worse is if we went for Bowen as well for a double deal, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, they are just having a real time at the moment. I watched that Chelsea game on Friday. I know Paquetá scored a brilliant goal, by the way. After that, they were dreadful. They look absolutely devoid of any kind of ideas. Really bad in defence. They spent a lot of money. They got players like Tadibo that we were linked with ourselves. Just so clueless. I'd be really concerned about them if I was one of their fans. And then go and sell them. Imagine watching the next day, waking up watching Khannouss star against Man City, and then go to Tottenham, go and sign Paquetá. It's a big thing.
Yeah, sounds fantastic, Bill.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a difficult deal to be done, isn't it? But great player, so who knows? And I guess the only other slight wrinkle in the mix as well is that if we try and use Bissouma in the deal as well, who's Graham Potter player, and linked with West Ham tentatively, so that could be working our favour. But who knows?
Yep. Just on that point, you already brought him up, Bill. We are also hearing reports that Everton have shown interest in Bissouma. So it would imagine, look, it wasn't in Thomas Frank's matchday squad, obviously against Manchester City, reportedly injured at the moment. You would think at the moment, given the way Polina is playing and the fact that maybe they see Archie Gray as that almost next in line of that role, whether people's thoughts on that may differ, that maybe that would give Bissouma the opportunity to go out, get regular first team football and be wanted again. I think it does feel now, from what we've seen already with Frank, that you can't blame him. That lateness is a big problem for him. He was obviously disciplined for that. He was dropped, of course, for that Super Cup final. Would you be amazed if Bissouma would be a Tottenham player between now and in the window? Would you be surprised?
I would be, yeah. I think there's no way back from now, and the fact that he wasn't even in the City squad, despite Frank saying he's in contention again, says it all. And then I'm going to throw it over to George. Talking transfer dreams at the moment. Everton swap deal for Ndai. That'd be great for Bissouma, right? That'd be one.
Whoa! No, now you're talking my language.
We got to check ourselves here. I mean, at the moment, given our summer, I mean, these names that are being mentioned would be fantastic. But we have got. I think the number 10 feels like a big problem. We've got to close off. I know people want to understand where we are with, of course, Savinho. We will bring them up to date on that. But I suppose before we do go for that break, in terms of that number 10 situation now, boys, I may be coming back round to you on it, G, from your end. Look, we know there's been other names linked for that number 10. And for those that haven't heard that news that we brought to you earlier in the show, just to give you again that repeat, if you've missed it for any reason, you've just come into the show, Tottenham have had a bid rejected in the region of 70 million euros for Nico Paz. That's being reported by Fabrizio Romano, who says that on the Nico Paz rejection, that Tottenham were in for the player, bid rejected. Paz wants to stay at Como with a view on Real Madrid being the future. And it also follows up to say Madrid were always going to match any proposal in this case. Now, again, fans, they might not be, liking these reports that are coming out that Khannouss has been reportedly pushed to Tottenham in these last few days. We'll get Jay's point on that as well to see if he can give us some verification on that. But Palace were understood to have had 2 bids rejected this week for the City midfielder. Khannouss was looking to sign for them, reportedly after reaching an agreement in principle, but sources very close to the player. This is again reports suggesting this that Spurs have kept a close eye on things. Daniel Levy may act on that and may look to pursue this player in the latter part of the window. The player wants to leave. He wasn't featured at all for Leicester's squad at the weekend. Their coach said we felt it was perhaps not the easiest week for the player, and we decided to take him out of the spotlight just because we think it's best for him and the team. Of course, the other name also that's been mentioned in that alternative to the 10 is Akliouche of AS Monaco. We've heard again a number of suggestions stating that there's not really an interest from them to sell the player. And then there's other conflicting sources saying they would be open to his departure. Where are we, G, in your mind in terms of the alternative 10 if Nico Paz is off the table?
Yeah, I do worry that it's basically left down to 3 players at the moment. Those 2 that you just said plus Paquetá, really, because look, Rodgers, as much as I think he's a brilliant player, that's just not going to happen. I know Villa have got the sort of the PSR issues and constraints, but realistically, it's going to cost something north of £80 million to sign him, and there's just no way we spend that right at the end of the window when they got no chance to be able to replace him properly. So I don't think that happens. Khannouss is obviously the cheapest option available. Doesn't mean he's not a bad player at all. I think that's one where we're willing to sort of wait on. Akliouche, I think it was brilliant for Monaco, brilliant in the Champions League last year. I think he'd be a fantastic option, especially because he can play on the right wing as well. I think that adds quite a lot of unpredictability again to us, because that way you could have Kudus play on the left, you could have Kudus play in the middle, Akliouche could play on the right. Equally, Akliouche can play in the middle, Kudus can stay on the right. I think he adds great quality to the team. And what I like about sort of all 3 players is they're quite good at tackling and winning the ball back, which is something I think Frank prioritizes a lot when it comes to his players. So to me, it's sort of down to those 3, unless some other name comes out of nowhere. Where Akliouche, I think, is a little bit difficult is I think Bayer Leverkusen have agreed to sign Ben Seguir, who's another young player at Monaco. So it's going to take quite a big fee yet again. And I mean, all these clubs know we've got 60 million plus to spend with all the rejections we've had so far. So I think whoever we bring in, it's going to cost minimum 60 mil. Regardless, right. Unless it's Akliouche. I think he's 35 years.
Now,
Khannouss.
The problem is now everyone knows you've got 60 million there, so it feels like whatever's going to happen, we're going to blow that 60 million and more in the next few days. It does feel, because everyone knows we've got that. Jay, let's come over to you on that point. This kind of merry-go-round for the number 10 search, like Jules said there, it seems to have trimmed down to maybe 3 players that, again, we know with the window that might change because, again, surprise options always come. But Paquetá, Khannouss, and of course also in there, as we've mentioned, in terms of that other alternative 10 for Tottenham, where are we in your mind with those being the options in terms of Khannouss, obviously Akliouche obviously Paquetá. Where how do you see this playing out for Tottenham? Who do you think would be their first choice? Because again, there's been suggestions with this deal for Akliouche that it's been complicated by his agent as a reputation. Wait for it. Reports are saying that his agent is quite difficult to negotiate with. So that probably seems like the most realistic one we'll go for on that basis, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I think with the Akliouche, I think he is more of like an alternative to Savinho. I mean, he's a player that can play in the number 10 role, so he does give you those different options. But yeah, he, as George said, he's going to be an expensive deal because, you know, they've already made that sell. He is seen as a very talented player around Europe. He had a pretty underrated season last year. Goals in the Champions League. So he would be a good option, and he's good age as well. He's 23, so he's kind of coming into his best years, but he is a talented player, so that would be a good option for us. Khannouss as well, I think he's a good player, but you'd then really hope that you get some, you know, a big left winger over the line. In terms of that, would have to be like a Savinho. I mean, he's a decent player, Khannouss, but yeah, I have my slight doubts over whether he'd be the answer for Spurs, but a good player. I just question whether, you know, do Spurs really want that player? Is a deal that I think could have got done a lot earlier in the window had we really wanted him. I think maybe there's question marks over his physicality as well. So we know Thomas Frank's really targeted like a Gibbs White, who physicality wise is brilliant. So I think there is maybe that question mark over that aspect, but he's a good player. And as I said, you'd hope that maybe we'd look at really going big in other areas.
Yeah, I think what will be a concern for some players, and some players and some fans, Bill, is that, you know, even that Nico Paz deal, you know, just 2 days after the manager said he only wants players who want to play for the badge, you know, we're bidding 70 million for a player who doesn't appear that keen on the move and wants Madrid. But we know there might be more to that. I mean, there might be more behind the scenes. But in terms of the other options being mentioned for you, where do you see those grounds being like? Because I know, again, you really liked Paz, but, you know, I think Joe makes a fair point there. Khannouss has been available for most of the summer. You know, if Tottenham wanted to get that deal done, they could have got that deal done. So there might be an argument that if we're going back in for him now, it's the third choice, it's the fourth choice, and doesn't scream being great. Where are you on that, Bill, for you?
Yeah, I just think the whole approach doesn't exactly scream competence, does it? It seems to be just sort of running around target to target with no sort of clear direction. I'm just kind of, I feel like we're chasing our tails a little bit at the moment, mate, to be honest. And I'd worry a little bit about Khannouss just because of the sort of, I think there's a lot of pressure on whoever comes in after two really high profile transfers collapsing. I'd worry that, you know, his reputation, he's already sort of would be fighting an uphill battle with the fans, because a lot of, you know, it's not something that I necessarily believe, but a lot of big fans would refer to it as the cheap option, I'm sure, and, you know, a relegated Leicester player. And I would worry about the pressure he would be under. But I think, you know, people like George, who obviously you know, have much better knowledge of these kind of things, have been talking about him all summer, even for, you know, but even before, like, we were linked with Eze and people like that. He's always been on the list of people that are, you know, really good at, you know, making that kind of judgment on players. So I think it might be a good fit. I would worry at the moment, though. It just feels like we're a bit of a scattergun approach to these, sort of going from target to target with no real plan. I think it's okay if, you know, walk away from the Eze deal, we got the next target lined up straight away. Walk away from the Paz deal, we got the next target. But we just seem to waste so much time on these transfers that it's just, I'm really worried about where we're going to end up. And my big worry is that we end up with none of them at the end of the day, and that would be a real massive shame at this point.
Quick question to you guys, and I guess the chat as well. If going for the cheaper option in Khannouss allowed us to guarantee Savinho.
Just to ask that, before you ask that question, do you think he's the cheaper option? Personally, do you think he's a cheaper option?
What I mean,
he was on your original list, wasn't he, George, at the beginning of the window?
Yeah, I mean, Kish is one that's been pushing him hard.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he is a very good player, and I do think it's. I mean, look how many players we've signed in the past that were unknowns that no one had a clue about. I mean, remember when everyone was fuming that we signed Van der Ven instead of Tapsoba? And in my opinion, he's ended up being the better player. So I think as much as fans, we love massive names, and don't get me wrong, I like the fact that we're targeting Premier League proven names. I think we can't discredit a player's ability just because they play for Leicester. I think that's. And I don't think you're able to shine in a team like that either. So that's not to discredit him at all or anything like that. But I think with the other options available, I think what Jamie was saying there, I want someone that's a little bit more physical, that is able to play. And when you see how much Sarr does in that role that he's having to fill at the moment.
Yeah.
I do think someone like Paquetá fits that a bit better, whereas someone like Akliouche is one that can cover the wing as well, depending on whether a Savinho deal happens or not. I think that's they can't all three of them offer something a little bit different, but he's still a good player, Khannouss, but I think, in my opinion, I'd prioritize the other two still.
Forgive me, G, because I did cut you short there. What was the question you wanted to ask the chat? Was that specific? Or was it based on that point?
Well, it's more about if it meant that, because obviously he is going to be cheaper than the other two. Would you take it if it guaranteed that we would get Savinho on top of him as well?
Great point. Listen, let us know in the chat your thoughts on that. We're going to come on to Savinho in just a second. Again, because of the Hincapié rumor as well. I just got to ask you this question to you three here, and again, listeners we've got over 20,000 of you that are watching the show right now. Let us know in the chat. I mean, does anyone feel confident we'll get all those three positions filled? Will we get the? I feel like this is what a stupid question after what we've gone through this window in terms of rejections. I mean, Jay's looking at me like he's about to kill me. Jay, how confident are you? We get the centre back, we get the winger, we get a number 10, or should we just pack up and go home?
I think that would be the most sensible.
Say there's people that come back saying not even one at the moment.
No, it's just gonna be difficult. I mean, look, Vuskovic is leaving as well, which look, that's fine. I think he's a huge prospect. Let's do what's
definitely,
best.
Jay, you definitely think Vuskovic will go to Hamburg on loan? Is that definitely thing?
Yeah, look, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, that's not my information. That's what we've seen.
Okay.
But yeah, look, I think that's maybe the right thing to do. We know, as I said, massive talent, but let's do what's best for his development. But that's going to involve bringing in another option, I think, because as I think George mentioned at the top of the show, we would be left a little bit short in centre back, and we know what happens when we get left a little bit short in centre back. So yeah, I just think it's going to be very tricky to get three big names over the line. I think that I'm definitely there with all the comments. Yeah,
I think the general summary, Bill, is that some are not confident we'll get one, let alone three. So on that basis, we're in for an interesting week, Bill.
Yes, mate. I mean, how could it get more interesting than what we've gone through? We've been through war, Rick, haven't we? Those 2 a.m. bombers to that day, the Eze day.
There was that moment where, I think me, G, and Bill were all up when Paul broke the news about the Eze one. And I sent a message to the other group where Jamie was in. I said, wake up, we've got breaking news. And the funny thing is, everyone was asleep there till about 6 a.m. But I think me, G, and Bill were pacing around going, this is actually happening.
I was on my way to the airport for the Super Cup, and I was buzzing. That was the best flight I've ever had that early in the morning.
We deserve a big transfer, don't we? We've been through it as a fan base. We've been through the ringer, guys, haven't we?
I tell you, G, you mustn't have wanted that flight not to end. Imagine getting on that flight, right? He's on a flight for a Super Cup final. He had the news of the Eze thing break. He just thought, please, this flight just don't take me off the bloody plane. Incredible.
Someone would have done that the other day and then landed to realise he's now playing for Arsenal. So.
Could you imagine flight mode turn back on the runway and you just see him in an Arsenal top? Here we go.
You would have got on with the "here we go soon" right on the plane. You get off the plane, he's in their bloody shirt. Can't make it up.
I'll tell the pilot to turn around, take me back. Take me back to Italy. I can't see this.
Look, we are going to go for our final break of this show. Like I say, over 20,500 of you are watching the show live. Thank you ever so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We are getting down to those final 7 days of the transfer window. Will Tottenham get a move on and get the deals done? We understand they are looking still for a late scramble of potentially a centre-back, but we've heard the news in this show that Pierre Hincapié would like to leave by Leverkusen. We know he's a player that's been appreciated by Tottenham during this window. Also, we know Tottenham are in pursuit of a number 10. You've heard it in this show that, of course, Fabrizio Romano has reported that Nico Paz, Tottenham had a bid rejected in the region of 70 million. The player sees his future at Real Madrid. There is reported interest from Tottenham in Lucas Paquetá. How far that interest goes, we will wait to see. It tees it up nicely, really, that the news that we've got to bring to you all is where we are in the hunt for the on-off battle saga. Not really had many sagas so far this summer in Savinho. We'll be turning our attention to their next, guys. If you can, for us, keep liking, keep subscribing to the show. Share this out to a wide range Spurs audience. Make sure you are following, of course, George on all the socials, George Akliouche across all of the platforms, Billie T for when you're going to need Billy. Maybe, don't feel bad about it when I say this. You might need Bill more at the end of the window than you need him right now, because it could be a... Yeah, it's like that Mick McCarthy meme when you look at it, because it can't get any worse, can it? It can. It can.
We should do a big tifo for that for the Bournemouth game, shouldn't we?
It can't, can it? I'll tell you. And Jamie Brown for the Daily Hotspur. Jamie will be bringing you all the latest news, of course, on his X feed and more, and hopefully bringing a lot of news to us over this next 7 days where Tottenham have got to get a move and they've got to bring players in. They've got to support Thomas Frank. Guys, let's turn our attention to what has been the on-off saga of the last 2.5, 3 weeks. No, it's not Gibbs White. No, it's not Eberechi Eze. It is Savinho of Manchester City that we know Tottenham have had a real genuine interest in. Spurs see him as a player they could and would like to sign. How easy is that deal to get done? We shall see. What we do know is, for those that weren't aware, that there were meetings happening after that Man City game in which Tottenham met directly with representatives of Savinho's entourage, his agency. There were Tottenham officials there, and there were hope that they could get this deal done. But we do know that really in this last couple of weeks, there has been a blocker from City's end. And we understand that blocker being the name of Ferran Serrano, who's been a key man behind the scenes at City that apparently does not want this deal to go through. But we know, as I said earlier, the agents have jetted in from South America. Why are they going to jet in from South America to come over here to London if they can't get this deal done? And we mentioned that point for those that missed it. Savinho's agent, Rodrigo Zetiel, was at the Etihad. He posted on Instagram. We know there's been those club power brokers behind the scenes seeing where we are with this one. Where are the optics? Let's start with you, Jamie. Where are the optics on Savinho? Will we get this deal done?
I mean, as you said, they did have those conversations after the game. I mean, obviously, very logical. When you're talking to Man City, you're playing Man City, of course you can have those talks. I think we're somewhat of a confidence that they can still get this deal done. But we know that means very little at Spurs. Another team can quite easily come and swoop in. Man City can very easily stand firm over their stance. He's a player who obviously, as you said, they rate very highly. But, they've got so many options in that left wing role. And that's why, Spurs were to make a big offer. And we know he's a Brazilian who wants to be playing for Brazil at the World Cup next summer. For me, I mean, this would hurt more long term for me if we were to miss out on for Eze. I mean, obviously, it's really easy to say, given that he's gone to Arsenal, Eze, and the way that things happen. I just think that this would be the perfect addition for us. I said before, Eze, I think that this was such a good fit for us in terms of that left wing role. A very exciting player, a guy who I think would be very similar to Khannouss in terms of, he'd make something. I'm sure George did mention that as well. You've then got, you've got Khannouss on one side, you've got Savinho on the other side. Just makes you very unpredictable. His potential is massive, and that's why they don't want to get rid of him. So I would be hugely disappointed to work to get this one over the line, because it seems like the player is very keen, which, I mean, honestly, there is some logic to it with being the World Cup, but yeah, I would love this deal. It would make up for Eze quite a lot if we were to get this deal.
Jay, forgive me. We got most of the tone of that. My only worry is that I'm not even sure we'll get the transfer. We couldn't even hear you bloody say about the transfer. It wasn't your fault. But it feels like we're getting to a point now with the guests on this show that even when we talk about transfers, we can't even bloody get the points out of them. Jay, we'll let you, if you want to, mate, in the background, if you want to maybe reset the router, come back into us, that'll be great. G, let's come to you. This has been for Tottenham, as we know, pretty much the last 3-4 weeks dominating the fact Tottenham want to get this deal done for Savinho. From what we understand, the player is in love with the opportunity of working with Thomas Frank, which you can't underestimate in this. I think, unlike some of the other transfers that have been linked to Tottenham this summer, I think one of the biggest problems is that maybe we haven't always necessarily had the player buy-in for some of those deals. You look back at the Gibbs White one, we wanted Gibbs White to force that. Similar to Eze, I think Eze wanted to come here to fully force that as well. It does feel an interesting one with Savinho because it is a World Cup year. Maybe he looks at Tottenham being a club where realistically he would get more game time at Spurs than City. But again, at the same time about it, you're dealing with a club, City, that don't really need to sell. And Pep Guardiola's made it very, very clear. He sees him, or did see him, as a massive part of their future. So for you, where are we, G, in this battle for Savinho? Can it get done? Will it get done?
Do you know what? I didn't want to say it over the last few weeks because of how much we've been burned by so many transfers this window. But in my opinion, the last few weeks, I genuinely felt like this one for Savinho was the one I thought was more likely to get done. Only because look at the history between Pep and City and some of the players, right? No matter the quality of them, the moment they are interested in a new what's the word, like a new venture, a new possibility. It happened with Mahrez. As soon as he moved on, he didn't let he allowed them to go. Cole Palmer was an incredible player, another one that City wouldn't have wanted to let go. But the moment Cole Palmer came to the club and Pep and told them that, look, I want to leave because I want to play regularly, they were fine with it. And it had to be a massively inflated fee from Chelsea to sign him, despite not actually playing a crazy amount of games for Man City at the time. But he showed the quality in those games and they got the move done. And I think for me, it's that similar sort of situation where it's going to take a lot of money to get him out of there. I understand the CEO is blocking the move, but we've seen it in the past with Pep. As soon as a player wants out and is looking for a new challenge, I don't see him wanting to block the move. I think it's just the way of the board securing as much money as possible for the player. Because look, at the end of the day, they would not entertain Levy and Langer and whoever it is to have meetings after the match at all if there wasn't a possibility of this transfer going through. That's in my opinion. And I don't think his agents would fly over without there being a possibility either. Or it was them flying over to secure a better contract for Savinho. And if they're having meetings before and after the matches, then that suggests to me that clearly there is something there and there's a possibility there. I just think we have to potentially really overpay for the player to take them off of City's grasp. There's an offer that they can't refuse. And to be honest with you, with how much we've been let down with the Morgan Gibbs-White and the Eze situation, I think the board have been backed into a situation where, in my opinion, they have to overpay and have to get this deal done now. Could you imagine we don't get Savinho done now after the weeks and weeks of work we've put into that, on top of Eze, on top of Morgan Gibbs-White, on top of the fact we haven't got a 10 through the door yet. So
it's great points.
For me, I think this is a deal that absolutely can get done. It absolutely can get done, especially because the player wants us. That's exactly what Frank said. He wants players that want the club, and he clearly does. So it's just I think it's one of those ones it will drag on a bit closer to deadline, but we really do need to get this over the line, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I said there Bill, coming on to you, like I said to G there, we've had a frustrating summer in the fact that the players that we've been linked with maybe haven't had that case of Tottenham buy-in. And, Frank has said that recent quote about the fact that he wants players to come to the club that want to play for the badge, play for the shirt. From what we're hearing from behind the scenes, Savinho is making that case clear that he wants to come to Tottenham. Again, a player that offers real, genuine pace, direct running, technical sharpness in wide areas. And only at 21, there's the offer of the long-term value. There's that dynamic to build a real squad around this kid. As a young kid, I know maybe some would be concerned about the stats out there about the player's time at City. Again, if you go off, what he's had, just the one goal so far. But if we know what we've seen with him, really, this is a player that really built his reputation at Girona. He had 19 goal contributions for them in the season before that. He was a success, in terms of in La Liga, got in the team of the year there. He helped them to a stunning third place finish ahead of Atletico Madrid. Was also ending the campaign just 4 points behind Barcelona. That is how good Girona were. And he was absolutely at the heart of that team. 8 assists whilst he was there, 19 goal contributions overall. What's your gauge? I mean, are we really going to, as things stand, Bill, blow what we've been told, 80 million pounds? I think 80 million euros, I think, just to be, because I know some people get obviously a bit funny about the currency. 80 million euros is what's being speculated about what it would take to get him out of City. Can it get done, Bill?
I think George is right. I think it has to at this point. I think, this would be a huge, huge transfer for us, and it'd certainly be our biggest of the window. And I think at the end of the day, we have to realise the climate that we're in. £80 million is just the going rate for players of that quality now. We're the only Big Six club that's not broken the £100 million mark. We're probably not going to anytime soon. If we look at 60, 70 million, it's just a going rate for a decent player now, unfortunately. Especially, this is not a Man City reject. This is a guy that has a future at Man City. He's 21 years old, so he's fantastic age to sign. And, for some reason, he may need to get his head checked, but he wants to join Tottenham over Man City. That is, something that you can't you can't deny that. Like that's
someone checking right now.
Yeah.
Check. Would he found the medical? Would he found the
I
medical?
was just about to say that.
Yeah, and
Sorry, Jim. That was an open goal. It was an open goal. Forgive me.
This is not a Man City reject. This is a player who has a future at Man City. They don't want to sell him, and he wants to come to Tottenham. We have to take advantage of that fact and sell him and buy him because, I think he'd be such a game changer for us. Having, as Jamie was saying earlier, having Khannouss and Savinho on the wings, either side of a striker, my God, that is insane. So, and it could be our Cole Palmer type sign, which is, funnily enough, we've got the player that wants to come. The manager's reluctant to let him go. Now the chairman's blocking it. We can never have it easy at Tottenham, can we? So there's always something in the way. But like George says, I think there's enough noise out of Man City to realise that if we pay the money, I think we can get it done. And sometimes, we're after players that the clubs don't want to sell, and if you're doing that, you have to just pay the money. You can't lowball for a player that a club don't want to lose. It doesn't work. So just go and pay the money, get this player playing for Tottenham, while he still, for some reason, wants to come to us.
And I think, sorry, very quickly, just to add to that as well. I think in terms of why the club, I think, should pay that much for him as well. When you're looking at the Eze deal, you're paying, 65 million-ish for a 27-year-old. Okay, naturally, the club are going to know, and because we all know that's how the club view a lot of transfers, is about the sell-on value or what they might be worth in a few years. Yeah. Naturally, you're just paying for talent there for the next 3 years for their prime years. With Savinho, you're getting a high-quality player at 21 years old. Even if it costs you £70 million, with the way inflation and the way football's going, he could be at Spurs for 8 years. His value could be well over 100 million by that point if it works out. Yeah. Even if not, you're getting a high quality player, and that 80 million or 70 million is going to get spread across the 6, 7, 8 years he might be at Spurs. Anyway, I think for me, it's an absolute no brainer to bring in someone of that quality for Spurs in an area that we desperately need as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, depending on what report you want to believe, Jay, there's been suggestions out there that he's been convinced that he would play under Thomas Frank on a more regular basis and believes he's got a greater chance of fulfilling his potential at Spurs rather than City. In his mind, from what we're hearing, the scoreline against it, he only strengthened his belief in that, But how concerning would you be, Jay, about these reports that this blocker behind the scenes, allegedly, reportedly, again, we're not part of the negotiations, we're not in the room, but I think Ferran Serrano is one man at City that wants to see him stay. How much is that problematic, Jay? Again, we talk about transfers going into a final week, trying to do deals that are possible. We've been here now for the last 2.5, 3 weeks. We've gone through Eze, we've gone through Gibbs White, we're going through this one. I can see a lot of comments suggesting here from listeners or viewers in the show, if this isn't done by Tuesday, for example, we've got to move on. We can't be wasting any more time on that. Is that fair, Jay?
Yeah, I think so. Look, first, hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up. I think Daniel Levy heard me getting a bit excited about my Wi-Fi and decided to cut me off. I mean, I could be lagging right now, but anyway.
We can hear you, mate. We got you.
Hopefully it stays for now. Yeah, I mean, look, a fantastic player, and I don't know. It's just tricky. I really hope this does get over the line. But Billy made the case. He's a player that they want to keep. You've just got to pay the money for him, I think. So just a super talent, and as I said, would make us really unpredictable. But yeah, you're just not going to get him for a lower fee, and Spurs have to go and pay the money. They've got to go and show that ambition. They've wasted a very long time on this, so let's see what happens in these last few days.
Yeah, I do agree. We are going to have to see what happens in these last few days. We certainly are. Just on the window and what's happening right now, bless him, I've got the guys here that are feeding me in the background, some other updates that are coming through, and we're going to zip back round to where we are on Hincapié. We mentioned him at the earlier part of the show. We said that Bayer Leverkusen now, they're in a position where they may be looking to sell the player. And we have had a further update on Hincapié, which we're going to bring to you live in this show right now. This is from Fabrizio Romano via his YouTube channel, which he said Tottenham tried for Pierre Hincapié a few weeks ago, but it was not possible. Leverkusen are fighting to keep the player, but there is a lot of interest in the defender who, as we've reiterated on this show, has a 60 million release clause. We were told on here, obviously Paul O'Keefe blessing came on a few weeks ago. We know Tottenham had a long-standing interest in Hincapié. That was arisen in this summer. But again, it's problematic, as we said, because of that whole release clause situation. Bill, we are dealing really in the optics here where we are not dealing in easy negotiations. But people would say, well, look, if you want great players or good players or top-level players, these aren't going to be easy deals to do. You've got one with Hincapié where it's a release clause. You've got another one with City and Savinho where you've got people at the club that want to keep him. is that a concern for you going into the final week that these don't look to be straightforward deals to do? But then if you're operating on negotiating for top players, they're not going to be.
Yeah, it does concern me. I think the big concern with Hincapié would be that Chelsea are after a left centre-back as well, after Colwill getting injured. And trust me, if it's difficult for us to get a deal done, it won't be difficult for them. They'll probably just come in, pay the release clause outright, and then that's, it'll be there in a couple of hours. So if they're shopping at the top table, it is it's not easy, but you just got to pay the money, mate. You've just got to pay the money. There's no way around it. You can't lowball these things. There's a release clause there. If a build apparently saying both Arsenal and Chelsea are interested in Hincapié, so it might be a difficult deal to get done, but just go and pay the release clause then and get it. Take the negotiating out of it.
Well, I'm at this point now with our transfers where we could go around the house that Jamie's in at the moment, and we could end up getting a transfer at the moment. We've covered 3 rooms so far. We've covered the living room, the bedroom. Well, I think we could be in the kitchen now, depending on where Jay is.
We're right by the router. We're right by the router.
We're right by the router. We're getting closer and closer on that basis. We're edging. We're advancing
towards the router.
Advancing towards the router. Yeah, perfect. There we go.
I'm dreaming of that router.
With the idea of
taking us an hour and a half, but at least we found something during the show. If it wasn't a transfer. Oh. Big week, guys. I mean, look, it is a big week for the club. As I said to Bill there, G, the deals that we're trying to do, these are not easy ones. Again, with the Savinho one, as we've said, you've got someone at the club that's looking to block the deal. You've got one in Hincapié that's got a release clause to it. Does that worry you? Again, I say that to you because the fact of these aren't going to be easy deals to do, but at the same time, we need to get these players in for Frank. Would that be where the club thinks, maybe do we go for someone like an Khannouss that we know Leicester maybe are actively looking to sell him? It's a bit of an easier deal to do. There could be a talented player on there. Like you said earlier in the show, that there was such that noise around bringing Sober in at the time. We were looking for a centre-half. We went for Mickey van der Ven. And I think we'd all agree right now we wouldn't swap Mickey van der Ven for anyone because he's that good for Tottenham. Obviously, he's been part of a European winning squad for us. So how will the club read these optics in the next week? Do you think they will revert and try and do easier deals? Will they pursue these difficult ones with release clauses, with people at certain clubs that are potentially blocking these deals to do?
I think they've got no choice but to go for the better players. And to be honest with you, the one thing I am liking about the players that we are linked with is that for once they're actually, the players that a lot of top clubs, seem to be after as well, because that's the sort of level we need to be shopping at. And I think I like the focus of Frank saying that he wants the sort of, well, supposedly we think he wants the, not necessarily Premier League proven, but proven at a high level to be able to win duels and be strong players and not necessarily just targets for the future. And I think, unfortunately, the nature of signing those sort of players, you're not going to be the only club that are interested in them. So they're going to be difficult to do. But then again, it's just onto the board to prove what kind of weight Spurs can have behind them. But we're all privy to what we earn as a club and where we're at financially. Like, we know we can do it. It's just totally and completely up to the board to actually put the money where their mouth is to bring in these players, because you're not going to catch up to the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, whoever it may be, just on hoping that these sort of younger, quote unquote, cheaper signings are going to take you there with a good manager. It's just the way football is nowadays. You need to spend big, unfortunately. And I think they've kind of been backed into a corner. I think they've been backed into a situation where they have to go after these players that other teams are going to want as well, which is going to make it more difficult.
Yeah, Danny K's asking us, can we do a Spurs level of missed players? I think, look, Danny, we could have given that one to you, mate, 15 years ago. I mean, the way this window's
fit a UEFA squad with them. I
tell you what, 15 years ago, I could do it in 15 minutes at this rate, the way this window's going for us, I tell you. Let me ask you guys, what do you generally think is going to happen in these next 7-8 days? If I was to ask you to maybe now you're kind of to the mask in terms of what will get done, maybe don't give me a difficult way to say players, but positions that you're confident we will get done. Bill, what do you think?
I think we'll sign Savinho, and then I think the number 10 saga will get drawn out to the last day, and we might end up putting the trigger on someone like Khannouss on deadline day. I think we'll probably fail for someone like Hincapié. I can't see us getting 3 players in. I think we'll get 2 players in, one on deadline day, but I do think we'll get Savinho over the line, which for me is the most important transfer.
If it was just Savinho, Bill, what would the mood be like from your perspective as a fan?
80% optimism, 20% disappointment. That could have been slightly better, but I think Savinho, kudos on the wing, and I'll tell you where the most of my optimism is coming from our fantastic manager, mate, not from our fantastic chairman, unfortunately. So I'll be optimist for the season just because we've got a great manager. But I would always feel, I don't want to feel like this window. I feel like every window that we could have done more. And that's why I want that feeling to be completely erased. And I want us to finish a window saying, right, we've backed Thomas Frank, now let's see what happens. I don't want another window that we've had for the last 25 years where we're thinking we could have done a bit more.
On that basis, Bill, you don't think if it goes to what you think there, you don't think we might not even get a 10 at all? Just Savinho.
The time is running out, mate. Time is running out. So I think it could be a deadline day special, like Jamie was saying earlier. Maybe going for Paquetá on deadline day, something like that. But there's a week left, and there's a game in between that week as well. So that would normally knock off 2 or 3 days. So it's a lot to do.
Okay,
scrambling around as per.
Strap in. We will try and get Bill somewhere on deadline day, and if he's outside any training ground like odd and winger, something's gone massively wrong, and we've lost his fee for the afternoon or evening. Jay, let's come over to you. Gut feeling, Jay. That's hard because again, when maybe you're a bit more behind the curtain than what certainly some of us are on here. What do you think will be the plan, or what do you foresee happening from what you're hearing noise-wise behind the scenes?
No, so I would agree with Ricky you're Ricky.
You always agree with me. Always agree with me. Listen to that. Always agree with me. Always agree with me. Fantastic.
So, obviously we've Billy made the point. I think Savinho gets done. I think they've done a lot of work on that. We did a lot of work on Eze. To a certain extent, they were a little bit unlucky with that deal that Arsenal came and stung them. But I think if you pay the money for a player that isn't surplus to requirements under Pep Guardiola, £70 million, I don't think any club turns that down for a player who's not on the manager's plan. So that's a deal that can get done. And I think that would make it an 8 out of 10 window. I think that would get me a lot of hate in the comments, but I just rate him very highly. I rate Khannouss very highly. I think Paulinho is a very good signing as well. Obviously, it does leave us short in that attacking midfield role, and that would be a real disappointment if we weren't to get that in. So yeah, I'd go along again with Billy. I think it's going to be a case of where it's going to be a late deal in the window. I think it's going to be an opportunity signing, the number 10 role, and then a central defender. I think will be strictly based on whether Vuskovic leaves. I said I do think there is a good chance that is going to happen, but I just can't see it being Hincapié. That's not me. That's just my gut feeling. I just can't see it. I just can't see us spending that sort of money on a player like that. So if we can get Savinho, I am very happy, and I do totally take the point that we would be left short in that creative role. But look, we've seen Savinho on the wings and Khannouss is a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, listen, we'll have to wait and see on that, Jay. Thank you so much, George. Coming to you on that point. I suppose gut feeling at the moment, and just to kind of wrap up again for those that have missed the early reports, Tottenham, we understand, did put in another offer for Nico Paz. That has been outright rejected. For those that have missed that, our understanding is that the player wants to stay with Como with a view to joining Real Madrid, and that you'd imagine would be a closed door. But why would, again, you question again this fact, why would Tottenham be going in for a player with not having encouragement that there's a deal to be done there? We also heard that news that Pierre Hincapié, there's a decent chance of him leaving Leverkusen between now and the end of the window. Tottenham have tried for Hincapié a few weeks ago. They were told it's not possible. Leverkusen are fighting to keep the player, but there is a lot of interest in the player. And if the sale does happen, it will be based around the fact that he has got a 60 million release clause in his contract. So it will come down to that. We've heard a lot about release clauses. I think everyone's educated themselves so much about release clauses since the opening of this transfer window. I don't want to bore people anymore. And the difficulty in terms of getting some of these high-profile deals done. What do you think Tottenham are going to do if you can try and guess this club in the next week?
I completely agree with the guys. I said it earlier as well. I do honestly believe Savinho gets done eventually. I just think it's got too much legs in the conversations between the two clubs and the player wanting us and so on and so forth. I do honestly think that gets done. I do completely worry, like we have done in the past, just been left short. I think that centre-back position, for me, because of how late we have left it, is a luxury position. Not in terms of, I think we still need it. I just don't think the club have given themselves enough time to be able to get a Savinho over the line, a 10 over the line, and a centre-back over the line. So for me, I just don't think a centre-back happens at all. In regards to the 10, look, we still need it because Sarr has been absolutely phenomenal in that position, but he can't do it for 60 games of a season, especially like you said right at the beginning of the show. Obviously, Maddison's out for the whole season. Kulusevski supposedly back early 2026, but like you say, is not going to get up to match speed for a while. Can we rely on Sarr and potentially Bergvall playing there for that whole time? I don't think so. So again, same as what the guy said, I think it'll be a last minute sort of situation. I would not be surprised. I know we've talked a lot about like Paquetá and Khannouss and whatnot. I would not be surprised if Spurs are waiting to see what's happening with Harvey Elliott. I'm surprised that deal has not gone ahead with him to Leipzig yet because he's supposed to replace Xavi Simons going Chelsea. But for some reason, that's gone really quiet and hasn't happened yet. Yep. And we all know Spurs love an English transfer. Yep. So I would not be surprised if they're waiting to see on that situation. Another name that I would not be surprised with, even though he's not really actually in number 10, is Kobbie Mainoo. Because he seems to be frozen out at Man United by Amorim a little bit. I think he's a quality young player. He is a bit more of a box-to-box number 8 sort of role, but under Amorim and I think Ten Hag as well, he has also played in one of those attacking mid positions beforehand, albeit he's not a classic number 10. He's not Maddison or whatever. So to be honest, I would not be surprised on deadline day a sort of Mainoo loan with obligation or something, or I don't know, just something weird like that coming through the crackworks. But yeah, Savinho, and like the guy said, a last-minute deal for someone we haven't really thought about.
Yep. Bill, let's hand over to you if we can bring you in off mute.
Listen, mate, thank you to whoever just said it on the chat, mate. I've got some breaking Instagram ITK. Savinho's just posted a picture of him playing pool, and in the background there is a full suitcase. Make of that what you will. He's on Instagram, he's playing pool, and there's a suitcase in the picture, so...
How can we leave on that?
And he's just followed Poro on Instagram for those of you to tune into your Instagram ITK.
That suspiciously looks like a house in Cockfosters, I think.
Oh no, he's in Desiree.
Right, let's get the flight tracker out, guys. Come on, we can do this tonight.
Christina's on the flight checking where he is now. I mean, just on. I mean, I just for me personally, and I haven't said this. I think it'd be a damning failure, guys. If we leave this window, look, I think Savinho could be a great player for the club. If we leave this window without a number 10, we've known for what? Nearly a month we need a number 10?
Even before Maddison. Yeah, Kulusevski.
I don't talk about them not down the road, but, you know, whatever you think about them, Havertz went down, right? They didn't even get the full injury prognosis, and they went and triggered Eze, right? I think it'd be unacceptable if we left this window without a number 10. I really, really think it would be. Jay, do you agree? I know you said you'd be happy with Savinho, but I think we've got to get number 10. We have to get number 10.
Yeah, I think Thomas Frank wanted a number 10 even before Maddison's injury.
There's been reports out there. I don't think but there's been reports he wanted 2. There's been reports he wanted 2 number 10.
Well, yeah, I think that is the case. Obviously, we tried for Gibbs White before Maddison's injury anyway. I believe that's the case. Yeah. So yeah, it just shows that he really wants that as well. So we have to deliver that for him. It's difficult because I think Savinho would be a magnificent signing, but again, we're just leaving ourselves very short. We can't rely. They can't. I do worry about the fact that whether they know that they've already got those 2 number 10 options coming back at some stage, and maybe that is they're thinking about that, but you can't rely on that. You just can't. No. And yeah, we'll see. I said I think it will be like one. I do think that I'm 70% confident that we will get one in.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not surprised that we haven't got a number 10. I'm just saying that I'd find it absolutely Well, I'd find it more than baffling, but I've been baffled by a lot of things in the last how many years. But the fact, like I said, they've known now for what? 4 weeks minimum, 3 weeks minimum. We haven't got a number 10. Again, like you said earlier, Decky out to the turn of the year. When will he be back to match fitness? Maddison out for probably the whole season. I don't think we look at the squad and say there's anybody there that can really do that job for 60 games. There's not. Again, this is the thing about going to Man City. It was a great result, but we do know, like we've seen over so many years, even when Ange started at Tottenham and had 10 games unbeaten, that the minute this squad have to go from pivoting Premier League to Champions League to domestic cups, the squad just isn't there. So, I don't know in any way we could really get out of this window without at least number 10 and Savinho. I think that'd be a massive damning. I think that'd be really unfair on Thomas Frank given the start he's made. Do you not think as well, G?
No, 100%. I agree with you, mate. And look, I think it would be an absolute travesty from the club and the owners for not, like you said, what was it? Morgan Gibbs-White was like almost 50 days ago now. And the Maddison injury was quite a few weeks ago now. So it'd be an absolute disgrace for them not to do it. I think as well, and like I've said before, Sar's been incredible so far.
He has been great.
We haven't seen Spurs come up against a proper low block yet. I thought Burnley would be that, but really and truly, they actually pressed us quite high up the pitch. And when you don't have a number 10 on the pitch in against those games when teams will sit deep, and that will happen. It's going to happen in the cup runs. It's going to happen against some lower down teams in the league. We're going to come up against some tough defenses. And if you haven't got a number 10 unlocking passes, crossing into the back post, we can't just rely on Porro doing all the crossing in the team. If you don't have that, there will be games that we will struggle in. So yeah, I agree with you, mate. Absolutely have to get a number 10 in. But we've been here so many times before, and we're always left a player or two short.
Yeah, let's agree. I want to say, what an amazing panel! Amazing, can I say again, the viewers and listeners out there to have over 20,500 of you. You know, we've got a quarter of the stadium filled here watching Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much again for all the support. Thank you so much again for the love I received on the back of the interview with TalkSport. You know, again, I was highly emotional, as many out there know. I do get emotional about this club because I do love the club. I love talking about them. I just want, as we all want, the best for the football club. We all want to see the club be successful. If they're successful, we're happy. You know, it was only 3.5 months ago. We had one of the best nights of our lives in Bilbao. And I think the thing that we're all passionate about making sure is that we're not having to wait 17 years for the next one, because we've seen the potential of this squad. We've seen the potential of Thomas Frank. 6 points out of the last 6. 2 games, 2 clean sheets, looking organised, looking structured. 3 different systems, 3 different setups. There is a lot to be excited about with the club right now in terms of Thomas Frank and what is happening. But we do know that unless he's given the squad that he can compete with, it's going to be very hard for any manager to succeed here. But Thomas Frank, it feels, you know, he's the man. You've got to back him. You have to back him. So I want to say massive thank you, G. Thank you so much. I know you've got some really interesting stuff up on the live YouTube channel at the moment, so please make sure you check it out. Georgia Killier across all the socials. We're going to hope and see if we can still G back. So he doesn't know this yet. Towards the end of the week, maybe, dare I say, maybe we get him on deadline day a little bit. We'll see. He's looking at me thinking, God, can I make it work? Everyone seems to make it work with this show. We'll see what we can do. The wonderful Georgia Killier. George, thank you so much for your time. Like I say, 8 years he's been on here. Doesn't look it's aged him too much, doesn't it? With me, God, you can tell I've gone through the ringer. The wonderful, this man's also been with me for 8 years. Jamie Brown from Danny Hotspur, and we've got a lot coming up this week, Jay. So thank you, Jay, so much, mate. And bearing in mind, we went through 4 bedrooms and a bathroom as well. We managed to make it work, and we've got to the router. At least we've advanced on something during this show, Jay. Thank you so much. Apart from unmuting him for the end of the show.
No, there we go. Sorry, I nearly messed up right at the end. Yeah, just a massive week for us now. You know, the fact that we managed to bounce back from as a disappointment, and Thomas Frank delivered that for us. So he deserves to be backed. And I said Savinho in. I'm very happy if we can get that number 10. It would make up for what was a very difficult. I think it was Thursday evening, wasn't it? So let's see what happens.
Yeah, agree. Bill, thank you so much. I'm not just saying this. I think we'll gauge the mood just by your X feed across the week.
Yeah, mate, I'll be there. Just about to head off to Savinho's Mrs. Instagram, see if she's followed any London removal companies today.
Any barbers, any barbers, any removal vans, or anything you can find related to any kind of makeup stores. Make sure you're going to check that out. I want to say massive thank you again to this wonderful audience, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to have you covered throughout the transfer window till the end. Keep liking, keep subscribing. Also to these wonderful gentlemen, hit the notification bell from G, from Jamie, from Bill, from me. We've been the last word on Spurs. Tottenham, do something. 7 days in waiting. Let's go. Thanks as always for your support. Come on, you Spurs.